Welcome to Life's a Coach. Our mission is to empower individuals like you to take charge of your life, discover your purpose, and elevate your performance to new heights. Each week, we'll be diving into engaging discussions, introducing you to valuable tools from the coaching world, and giving you different perspectives on individual development. Whether you're seeking clarity, motivation, or a fresh perspective, we've got you covered. Again, welcome to Life's a Coach, where the power to transform your life begins now.
Welcome back to the Life's a Coach podcast, guys. My name's Eric Claremont. How's it going today, crew?
Good.
Doing great.
Fantastic. Excited to jump in as we get closer to January. So last episode, we spoke about affirmations and intentions, right? Today, we're going to go a little bit deeper. Last week, we kind of went into the what, right? What is intentionality? What is manifestation? Setting an intention for what you want your life to be like. Today, we're going to go deeper into that next step of finding a way to take action. So what the how, the when, the where, and perhaps the why is behind setting that intention, right? So specifically, just to kind of frame this a little bit, we're going to talk about setting our intentions or habits, and we're going to call these our fundamentals, right? And we'll split our fundamentals into three categories that we've almost put into for these categories, and they are health and fitness, relationships, and career and purpose. So hopefully some actionable things that you guys can think about as we start to set intentions and set habits for what your life wants to be like, or what you want your life to be like in January. So I'm going to put you guys on the spot to start with, right? So in this fundamentals area, right, where we split into health and fitness, relationships, career and purpose. One of the areas that we've discussed before is having a clear focus for what you're going to really hone in on with regard to one of those three areas. So does anyone want to share what their focus is, and perhaps go in a little bit deeper? Yeah, so focus within those three areas, right? So one of those, focuses for the, within those three areas for the new year, setting a new intention for perhaps an area of their life that they want to improve on, for that new year.
Well, three big categories to launch into for the next 12 months.
Absolutely. I'm jumping straight in.
I'm going to let Alexis go first on this one then.
They're so foundational, right? And I'm that type of person that I completely advocate for this, because I have seen the difference between putting a little energy in this one and a little energy in this one and a little, like, you really should focus more on one and then move into another. You're just going to have better success, honestly. But personally, I tend to struggle with that, right? I always like, oh, something shiny. But I am a firm believer, because I've gone through the personal journey of health first, and that has led to so much improvement in other areas of my life, whether that be better relationships, because I'm able to show up better and I'm less irritable, I'm more open-minded, or different things, because I feel better physically, mentally, emotionally. So I am sort of back in that space. That's one of my big goals starting in January. I shouldn't say just starting in January, starting now, but I hope to continue to increase that. And that's like having more of a on par with my fitness routine, being more on par with the nutrition that I would like to do. Those are some of the big specifics, because ultimately I see how that impacts everything else. It really is my core foundation, and I'm a big advocate for that, because I see the difference in other people too. Just how you're able to act, your level of productivity at work. I mean, just all of the things.
I agree, Alexis. Thank you for pointing out that health and fitness are our overall wellness is the foundation for all the areas in our life. How are we going to have the energy, to play with our kids, or to get up and get that last minute report done, or even have quality sleep for that matter? It's so yeah, I am with you on health and fitness being at a foundation, and everything else falls into place thereafter. Anyway, how about you
Absolutely.
guys? Yeah.
Well, I'm interested, because something that Alexis said there with regards to you're kind of jumping into how health and fitness is perhaps one of those things that if you do that right, you're going to be a better version of yourself, right? So it's kind of like, I like to call it a keystone habit, right? It's kind of like that first domino that's so important to kind of get you going for like now. If you and I'm the same. Exercise for me is that one that I knew probably around about a year to 6 months ago, where I would kind of get into these patterns, right? Where I would kind of go, kind of a few days training, and I'd kind of be my best self, and then I'd kind of miss a day because life comes up, right? And on those days, I knew that I was less patient, less focused, less able to give my best self, a less better father, partner, and all of the above, right? So I think really linking it to last week's episode, which is like your identity, I think is important, because we need to have a why behind our intention, right? So we can't just, I think, follow the next fad of, I want to get in shape. And also I think it needs to be intrinsically motivated rather than extrinsically motivated. Rather than, hey, I want to look good to go on this vacation, right? In June and July, right? Some interesting numbers, as Avril probably is going to start laughing at me, but 44% of Americans make a New Year's resolution basically before New Year's Eve. Only 31% of people stick with their New Year's resolutions, and by the end of February, 81% of people fail by February. So obviously there's a gap between setting a New Year's resolution and actually following through, unless we just want to kind of do it for a month to kind of feel better and then just fail, right? So why does that happen? Where are we going wrong as a society that, December, yeah, I'm motivated, January 1, I'm gonna hit this gym hard, first week of Jan, we're going strong, second week of Jan, maybe we miss a day or two, and then by kind of like that last week of January, we're like, oh, maybe I should be setting a new New Year's resolution. So I mean, I've got a few ideas on this, but I'm definitely interested to hear your guys' ideas.
I just want to throw out there, one of the reasons is because you're not hiring a coach. That's
Love it. And how does that help, Alma?
Well, it's accountability. Yeah, so there's definitely the accountability aspect of it. And there's getting, really clear on your why. I think that has a lot to do with it. So there's a lot of awareness that unfolds during the coaching session. And just to make it real simple, to not overwhelm anyone, those three aspects I think are key, just to, getting started, staying motivated, because, you have a co-creator in this goal that you've come up with. And who doesn't like a little cheerleader and a little push to get you to the finish line? Yeah, I like it. I just, somebody's watching you, and no one's watching. I'll tell you what.
Yeah. We'll do all kinds of stuff when no one's watching, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So anyway, those are just a few of my ideas. I don't know. How about Avril? I'd like to hear. What do you think?
Oh wow. No, it's interesting. I think you're right. It's all comes back to our whys. You know, um, I don't want to push this quote that I once heard. Like, sometimes change. Oh man, I'm totally messing it up. But ultimately, it's all about your why. Like, how bad enough do you want it? Some people, they either change their habits, whether it's smoking or diet, whatever, because now they have to. They've got some health issues. That's the thing that's motivating. They've got no choice in the matter. And some people, they actually decide, I want to be this type of person, So it all comes back to the why, you know that's the motive. I think that's the reason why, going back to what you were saying, Eric, about come February, it's the percentage is going down of people who are sticking to those New Year's resolution. It's like you say, some of it's extrinsic. You're starting off because of you're doing it for outside reasons, and those usually they fade with time. But if it's coming from a conviction of this is what I want to do, this is where I see myself 6 months from now, and this is where, like, you really invested in the goals that you're setting. Like, this is what I want to do. I feel like it as long as your eye is still on the goal, even if you have a day like, oh, today I ended up eating too much, or tomorrow today I didn't go to the gym or whatever. But if your eye is still on the thing, you can bounce back and like, okay, cool, that's fine. That happened. That's just a relapse. Let's bounce back. Let's go back, So I think it's also, as long as your why is on point, and also I think the tools as well, the tools and the support you have around you. You may have a good why, but still not be able to hit that goal because you don't have the necessary support structure around you, whether it's an accountability partner or certain tools that you need around you. That's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, that's huge, Avril. I love that you talked about the supportive environment around you, because that was actually something I was thinking about too. So many times when people are setting a New Year's resolution, you're so excited about it, and you have this clear focus, so you think, until you hit your first roadblock. Maybe it's a birthday party, an anniversary or something, and you're like, oh, I'm just going to go off a little bit this time, or I'm going to be good. But then you have all of the people around you that, and this might be a little bit of a touchy topic, but people think when they see someone that's on a quote unquote diet or some sort of routine, when they see you saying no to cake or cupcakes or cookies or something, there's this innate thing within us that it's almost like we feel like we have to save that person, like they're depriving themselves. And so it's just a natural reaction. We're like, well, are you sure? Just one won't hurt you. It's not usually coming from a malicious place. It's actually like they're just trying to comfort you and reassure you that it's okay.
Yeah.
But also, they don't want to eat cookies by themselves.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. But that does impact your level of progress. If you're constantly surrounded by people like that, or people that aren't supporting your goals, you're not going to succeed. Like, just straight out, you're not going to. You have to at least surround yourself with some of those people that can help move you along. But I also think that part of it, I'm a huge advocate of the why. It has to be like you're burning building, the building is on fire, you need to jump type of motivation. But you need to look at it from a standpoint of, or this is how I see it, what are you working towards? Stop focusing on what you're leaving or what you're running from. So people will often focus on, like, I don't want to be overweight anymore. I want to lose this weight. I want to, even something somewhat more superficial, like I want to fit into a size 2, or I want to look better, this and this. That's not going to really keep you motivated for very long, because again, you hit that first roadblock and all of a sudden you start justifying things and different things like that. Whereas if you tell yourself, I want to be toned and strong and healthy, like those are less negotiable than I'm going to work out 3 times a week. I'm going to eat this many calories on this day. Like there's a difference in the mindset that it has on you of, you know, I can be toned and fit, but I have to do all of these things in order to accommodate that.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm working towards. And it keeps that level of structural tension. There's the last thing, and then I want to hear what everyone else has to say. But the structural tension of your goals and what you're working towards, once people start to get some achievements under their belt, like say you lose some weight, you sometimes will see people revert back. Like just using this as an example, because I know that this is, I don't know, 70% of people, I feel like New Year's resolution deals with their health or their weight. Once you start to see some success, sometimes you feel like, oh, I'm just going to treat myself and I'm just going to go back and do a little bit of this, or I'm going to be more lenient and do more of what I want. And then they wonder why it's difficult to kind of get back into the swing of things and whatever. It's because the structural tension is kind of gone. The newness has worn off. You're not as focused because you've already seen some of the progress and things. But that means you need a new why. So it all boils down to the why. And I love that you pointed that out. But I'm curious to see what anybody else thinks.
I have actually a few things to touch on what you have just said. A couple. First of all, how would I get a new why, and how would I even know that I need a new why? That's something that's just kind of lingering after what you just said. And then I just wanted to rewind just a tad bit to the importance of community, right, that you had brought up. And change can be a very lonely road. It is. And I think, going back to, your example about, come on, just have a cupcake because, I feel bad for you. I think also there's a lot of fear that comes up from people around. They might be a little bit triggered, and so there's that aspect. There's a lot of emotions. I'm not going to go into that in particular. But what I want to know is, what if I can't find a tribe who are, who have the same goal that can keep me accountable, the friends, and what if I do have to temporarily, with pencil, break up with, my group in order to stick to my goals? Is that a healthy way to achieve, our guiding light, or what? I don't know. I'm just curious. I have some questions, and I wonder what you guys would have to say about all of those points.
That's an interesting question. I mean, for me personally, so I've been on a self-love journey, like for the past 2.5 years, right? And I'm just giving a little backstory to answer your question, Alma, is that I've always, and the way I was brought up was like, always think of others before you and all that kind of stuff, right? And always put myself last to a certain extent. So in this self-love journey, I've got to sort of like, okay, so for example, the example that Alexa spoke about when she was talking about, okay, you are watching what you're eating, etc., and you have the people around you go, oh, well, hey, have this, etc., have a cake, let's do this. Previously, because I'm thinking not to hurt their feelings or etc., and I'm thinking of them and not me, I'll just say, yeah, sure. So I'm breaking the thing that I'm trying to achieve just because I don't want to hurt someone's feelings by saying no to their offer of food or whatever right? Ultimately, 6 months into the year, or the year comes to an end, right? Then I look back and I still haven't achieved my goal, whether it was a weight goal or smoking goal, whatever it was, right? So I feel like, so what I've been learning in my self-love is like, no, at the end of the day, I got to take care of this first, and in that, I'll say, yes, there are these moments when your why is like, no, this is what I'm trying to do for me so that I can live a better life, that I feel fulfilled at the end of each year if I'm putting my goals on an annually thing, So, and the thing is, all that happens, and I'm sure Alexis can talk about this too, is that when you go on a certain self-love journey or transformational journey, you are bound to lose certain groups of friends or certain communities, because your goals, where you're now going and what you're trying to do with your life, is different from some people. So, and where they are at and their motivations. So I feel like it's a harder initially, but it comes with growth. And as you also do it, you find that some people, even close friends and family who have known you when you're a different version of yourself, they may be the first to resist, but when they see you focused, determined, and still going your thing, initially they call, oh, she is the fitness person, or she is the weight loss person, or whatever. But they'll come around and start admiring you, and then they'll start coming to you, it's like, hey, so what have you been doing? How are you doing? So it's that initial awkwardness and initial, okay, I'm gonna say no, and you may not like me right now, but I'm gonna follow my why and trying to get to it. At least that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You nailed it, like 100%. I felt like you were describing my own life journey for the last few years, actually, April. That was amazing. But that's exactly it. Omar, I think that there are so many ways to deepen your why, or like, I think when you start struggling a lot with sticking to a discipline or a routine or a habit that is getting you to your goal or will get you to your goal, that's usually how I start to know, like, I need to reevaluate why I'm doing this, because clearly what's pulling me that way is not strong enough yet. So I need to have something else. I would advocate for a coach first and foremost, because that tends to be where I level up the most. But I can go on for that for days. But the big thing that you mentioned about is this kind of a healthy way. It is very painful and it can be very lonely at first. When I first started going through my health journey, I'm very grateful that my fiance Sean decided to do that health journey with me, because if not, it would have been really difficult, because we had our priorities changed. A lot of our local friends were bar hopping all the time, and we didn't want to do that because that went against, the health journey that we were on. That doesn't really help when you're trying to watch what you're eating and things like that. It's not that you can't do those things. It's just that was not our priority. And so we did lose a lot of friends. A lot of them did come around over time, but even still, the relationships are a little bit different. But what that ends up doing is, like Avril described, a lot of people will come around, whether they join you in the same facet or they just support you and love you. And that's the truth of it. If they really love you and want to be a part of it, they're going to support you ultimately. But also, if they can't, I'm sorry, but it frees up space for somebody that does support me and love me. That's ultimately one of the lessons that I learned, because I have personally struggled for my entire life of, I never wanted someone to feel left out or left behind. I am that inclusive person. Like, even if I don't know you, I want you to feel like you're a part of the group, right? Like you're wanted here. So that was very difficult for me to not feel like and burn myself out, constantly trying to maintain those relationships, until ultimately I was like, the door is open. I heard this analogy once where it's like, I'm just on the other side of the fence in my yard. I'm waving at them. The gate goes both ways. The gate is still there. I didn't close it or, shut it off or board it up or anything like that. But that has led me to finding a lot of other people. Had I not gone through, first of all, like my personal health journey, I never would have met any of you. So I never would have had the confidence to go to the Jay Shetty School to then be where we are now. So,
Alexis, I think that's a fantastic point what you're saying about that, and especially as we're talking about, I think think that joke on your Instagram, Alexa just responded. asking what you want, but yeah, going to your point of the social friendships that you have, right? I think what you're describing there takes a significant amount of self-awareness, right? That you're showing to, first of all, understand that, you know, you need to have that self-awareness to understand that, some relationships are gonna, end their course, and other ones are gonna be, are going to come towards you, right? And I love that analogy that you use with regards to being on the other side of the fence. Like Chris Williamson kind of calls that the lonely chapter in your life, right? Where you are kind of, you're not like your old group of friends are kind of on that other side where, let's say you've stopped drinking and stuff like that, where, you as you mentioned, you kind of don't go out as much, so you're kind of losing that part of you, and it's still a kind of a grieving process to an extent, right? Because you still feel a certain affinity to those friends and those people that you've been with, but you haven't quite created those relationships with that new set of friends, and then there's that whole new journey. So I think that's a great kind of idea. And as you said before, a coach can definitely help you with gaining that self-awareness, right? Because I think we want to, I spoke about this last week with regards to feelings, right? Where we talk about, something doesn't feel great, right? Where, like, for example, and this is why I think a lot of people like lose their habits, for example, right? So, using your example of perhaps, giving up drinking and things like that, when you get that kind of feeling of perhaps that you're not able to hang out with your usual friends and things like that, and your way of life is kind of changing a little bit, it feels uncomfortable, right? So it's kind of very easy to kind of just give in to those feelings and almost make up your own answers, right? And say, oh, you know what? I'm just, I'll just go out. I'll just have one. It's fine. It'll loosen me up, right? So I think it's very easy to let our feelings kind of take us to this place of, okay, we're going to change our actions, and then we get into the same habits, and now that's our identity. When I last week was talking about, we need to have a clear idea of what we want for our identity. Who do we want to be? Why do we want to be that person? And then once we have a clear picture of who we want to be, then we need to paint a picture for, okay, what does this type of person do? Meaning, I want to be happy, healthy, as you said, that the outcome, right? What does that dream goal of me look like in 3 years? But then, okay, what do I need to do in order to get there, right? And then, as you said, there's no point just talking about what we call it in performance coaching as our performance goals. We need to talk about the process. What does that look like, right? It's waking up every day to do my workout. It's having a good diet. It's all of these aspects that you spoke about. But I love the way that you put it there, with regards to taking that into consideration with regards to our relationships, right? I'm also really interested as a question to the group, right? Because I think part of it has to do, it is partly our why, but also I'm a big believer in systems, right? And understanding that if it's a bad system, then usually it's not going to work over time. Meaning, and here I'm talking specifically about habits, like creating new habits and, kind of getting rid of old habits. So any thoughts on that person who is inevitably going to set that intention to begin their workout journey in January, and not to wanting not to be just another percentage at the end of January who kind of just succumbs to that human nature of, it's okay if I don't work out every day or every other day, or changing their target. Any tips on how people can kind of, basically keep those habits going now once they've
being a
Understood.
statistic.
Say that again.
Avoid being a statistic.
Yeah, exactly. Avoid being a statistic.
You know, I before we answer that question, I would like to note that having grace and compassion for yourself when you do, you know,
Yeah.
turn the alarm off in the morning and you do have that cookie is really important in sustaining your goal. I think it's that I think first and foremost is just knowing that today is today and tomorrow is a brand new day with full of miracles and another chance to be yourself. And I didn't like to use the word chance because it's not like you failed today. You were you today. And I think that can bring up a lot of self-awareness in why you act the way you do. And you're like, oh, maybe you can sit back and say, you know, I know that when my partner wants to get up and go to the gym, I'm way more likely to get up and go to the gym. And isn't that interesting? And, you know, I know when he doesn't, I'd like to stay in bed. You know, just being kind about it and you know, or smoking. Maybe you find your cigarette has become company. You're lonely and you find that when you're bored or lonely, and that's why you want to have a cigarette. And I think those, you know, those inner realizations are uber important in sticking with that long-term goal. And I just wanted to preface that before, you know, that
So
that it's okay. It's okay if you fall off. All is not lost, you know, and you don't have to be a statistic just because you had dessert. Just
Yeah.
Let me
Well,
push back on that a little bit, right?
okay.
Let me push back.
okay,
No, it's
okay.
time, right? It's time. So I understand, and for the record, I'm gonna say like that. Definitely, self compassion and self kindness is 100%. You know, within my thinking here. But I also feel that self compassion can take you down a negative spiral of, oh, again, I don't feel like doing it today, and you know, I'm going to have that cigarette, or you know, it's a little bit cold outside, so I don't feel like working. It's going to lead to the same patterns and same habits that we've always got. I feel as if a stronger structure and frame is that we build confidence by doing what we say that we're going to do. So if we say that, again, and this all goes back to, I think, the why. So this is where I think our thoughts are aligned in that sense. Without a strong why, then we're never going to get to this place. To Almar's point, I think I agree with the fact that if you miss a day because, you know, there's a significant reason why, yeah, and you probably need to identify those reasons. You know, it's okay for me not to work out if, you know, I've got COVID, or you know, my cat died, or do you know what I mean? Like it's at least, you know, we're probably not going to write these down, but for me, it's like you know, I have a framework called like a SPARK goals, right? So basically, focused on a super strength. You know, we have a really precise and relevant goal. We have an action plan to kind of create that, and then the R is roadblocks. What are the potential things that are going to stop you from achieving your goal, right? And then K is keystone, which is basically a 90-day block, which scientists say 3 months is a perfect time for you to create a goal. But within that roadblocks, again, if you don't set a clear idea for what is your negotiable or non-negotiable, then I feel as if we're easily going to fall off. So what say you, Almar, to that, hey, I agree self-compassion is important, but we don't want to go so far as to being, I mean, where does the buck stop with regards to being too self-understanding with yourself, if that makes sense, right?
Oh,
That
totally does.
that becomes an
And
excuse.
I've actually, no, you're right. And I come from a different school of thought. I'm learning to be more compassionate because I just want to preface, I think character has a lot to do with everything that we're talking about, and that can be developed. It's not that, oh, I wasn't born to have discipline or to be disciplined. You're not born that way. It is created, and you can work on that. But I love that we're having this discussion, because I actually, I'm the person that doesn't believe I'm allowed to stop. I'm the person that doesn't believe I'm allowed to fail or to skip and that's just the way I was raised. And so I'm learning to have compassion for myself instead of berating myself for slowing down or saying no. I'm not gonna work out. Even, I used to. I've run over 10 marathons. I run with injuries. I run, things that you're not supposed to do, and I probably should have had more compassion for myself and given myself that break. But that's just not who I was, and I'm only
But Alma,
now.
would you have achieved what you've achieved if you did not have that inner steel? And
No, absolutely not. Yeah, no, absolutely not. But that took a long time, I think, to develop, and here we're looking at, a fresh baby start in January. And I can see, and I have seen, people can get very scared when they fear that they aren't allowed to stop, and they cannot fail. And so yes, I agree with you, Eric. Definitely, there is an amount of steel that you need in order to reach the top, for sure. But there's different levels and different calibers, and I don't know. Maybe I'm rambling on a little bit, and I don't mean to take over, but I'm curious what the other two, Avril and Alexis, have to say about.
No, for sure. So for me, just listening into the two of you talk, I feel like knowing Alma as well the way I do, she's also in a season, like she says, of also learning to be compassionate on herself. So she's basically, the way I know is like what you're describing yourself, Eric, is who she has been, is. She's also just in a season of learning to be compassionate for the days you wake up and not feeling like, okay, today I had a relapse, or today I had a day where it was like that, And I'd say back to you, Eric, that I've always had this quote since growing up, told that balance is the key to life. Do you get what I'm saying? So no matter how disciplined I am, but even in that discipline on doing certain things and having a strong willpower, there's also got to be balance. All right. Yes, you can achieve your goal. We recently did the David Goggins book, right? You Can't Hurt Me. You can definitely reach your goal, right? If a little of that I got from that book is like, he did marathons, he did all this crazy stuff, even when his body was still not even recovering, right? It's like, okay, he's still hitting his goals, right? But he's also hurting his body more, right? So the way I'm looking at it, like, balance is the key too, right? And also coming from your whys. Ultimately, whys for me, coming back to me, if I can bring it back to me, I was talking about being on a self-love and self-care journey, is like, yeah, if my why is to make sure that mentally, spiritually, physically, I'm in a certain place that I want to get myself to, right? Then I gotta find balance, even within the things I'm trying to do. Because if one thing that I really want, let's say I want to make $1 million this year, right? But in me making the $1 million that I want to make, my dog is just scratching himself on the table and is shaking my screen. This is like, no, we're doing a podcast here. Come on now.
Let's have it.
My point being, oh gosh. Say hi.
Hello. That's right.
Say hi.
Hello. Oh.
All right. My point being is that if I want to make $1 million by the end of the year, but if that making $1 million, I can be determined that I get up every day, every morning, certain time, I'm hustling, I'm bustling. But if that's also taking a toll on my health, it's not, as for me as Avro, it's not helping my overall goal of being self-love, self-care within the things that I'm doing. So if I get up every morning and I run at 6 a.m, right, then on the Wednesday I slide and I hurt my ankle, right? I know my goal for the week is like I need to do 10 miles or 50 miles, whatever, and I've only done 30 that day. I'm going to say, okay, I cannot just continue to say, okay, I'm still going to do it till Sunday because by Sunday I need to also give my ankle time to recover. So I say all this to say balance. For me, I still feel like there is a balance.
I agree.
But
Balance
I
is
acknowledge,
super
Eric,
important.
yeah, it is. It's a slippery slope when you give yourself too much compassion. But then, there's the controversy like that.
I agree. I agree with what you're both saying for sure. That the other side of that coin is burnout, right? Burnout physically, burnout mentally, right? And we've seen that, right? So it's that kind of, can we be somewhere in the middle between I don't know what you would call it, lack of consistency to burnout, right? Somewhere in here is probably that sweet spot of, I'm going to be compassionate with myself, when my body and my mind needs a rest, right? So I think as well, a coach can help you see that, because I think it's very difficult to look at it objectively, right, from the outside. So you can kind of through powerful questioning and tools to kind of really make you think and feel about how you're turning up in all aspects of your life, right? Because we know we'd love to think that and we've put it into those areas, right? Health and fitness, relationships, and career and purpose go into their separate boxes. We know that it's all at the same time, in the same moment, and we live in that one life, right? So how do we compartmentalize those areas each day, right? And I think to your point, I think both Ava and Almar, if we probably focus too much in one area, then normally those other two areas are losing, right? So it's kind of like, I don't think we can double down on, like, we can focus for certain aspects of our life, but within that focus, like, for example, if I really want to achieve a very important physical goal, I know that in order, like, they're all intertwined, right? So in order to reach my physical goal, I'm probably going to need a gym membership, to have some kind of recovery protocol, to have really good sleep and a good bed, right? So in order to have those things, I'm probably going to need finances, and without a job and doing well at my job, I'm probably not going to be able to receive that, right? So I think it's all intertwined and interlinked, right? But great point about
No,
balance.
and having a coach, each coach will tailor make a program specifically for you based on your sessions, and I think that's where we hit the head, or the point on the head, is that we are all unique and different, and what works for one person does not work for the other, whether it be diet, exercise, relationships, and that's where I think it's pivotal to work with a coach to help you tailor make a program specifically for you to ensure, I use that word loosely, success.
It's funny. In a lot of what we've talked about today and what we're talking about, one thing that coming up is like, well, our podcast is called Life's the Coach, and we keep going back to coaching. But really and truly, I'm also seeing the even in this topic that we have today, the effect of having a coach in life. And I know today we'll be talking about health and fitness and a few things along those lines. And for listeners and viewers out there, it's not like we're just talking about getting a fitness coach or a nutrition coach, right? Even relationships and all that kind of stuff. Even, sometimes I may go in going, okay, I'm struggling to lose weight, all right? And I'm thinking I'm going to talk to a nutrition coach to help me with my diet. But ultimately, you might find out that has nothing to do with the way I eat. It's a mindset I have, or a certain belief that I have, that beginning of the year when I write down my New Year's resolution, I myself cannot see those blind spots or see those things.
Good point.
But that's where a coach comes in, where they can like show you like, no, they can help you get to a place of realizing what your one's blind spots is, or where that mindset is like, oh, me quitting smoking has never been about the thing. It's related to A, B, C, D that happened when I was 5 years old or whatever you. But
Yeah.
then the practical aspects of, okay, now that we know what it is and how do you work it out or change it, is also something I love in the way Alexis talks about the community and the people around you, you know, how to walk through that. So yeah.
Yeah.
In all the podcasts we've done, this is one that I feel like I really felt coach come up a lot. You know.
Well,
I'm so
you
glad that
know.
you said that, April, because I was literally thinking we should probably clarify we're not just talking about personal trainers here. We're not, I mean, obviously, I think that's pretty evident, but in case you're new to our podcast, yeah, life coaches. And I think that overall this is amazing. And April, similar to what you were saying, is something that I look for in my life. You were saying balance. I used to look for balance in a lot of these things because ultimately, if you set a goal for yourself to like tackle all the things in all the areas of your life, that's where you're going to fail. You can't put 100% into everything. It's about harmonization. Sorry, hit my mic. It's finding the harmony. One day it's going to be more about family. The next day it is more about career. The next day, that's just how life is, and it's about being able to flow with it a little bit easier and having some of that grace, Elmar. And I'm a firm believer, like with my clients, I will challenge them a lot in that area of, is this you giving yourself grace, or is this now the rule? Is it the exception or the rule? Because if it starts a pattern, which is almost always what ends up happening, let's dig into why that's a pattern. What rhythm has created that pattern for you that it's making it more challenging to stick to whatever goal it is? Maybe it's a business goal even. And again, April, as you were mentioning, I personally have seen a lot of that where I was struggling doing certain things that would better my business. I was feeling that burnout when I worked with a coach and drilled down and ultimately realized that it was because I was putting so much pressure on myself and looking for others' opinions, when ultimately it was because I didn't have enough self-love. I couldn't see that by myself. I needed to work that out with my life coach by the questions they were asking me, and I stepped back and thought about it, and that changed the trajectory of what I was able to do and why I was doing it. And so I did just want to share a couple of like practical tips since we were talking about some of the hows. Um, so one thing that we talked about earlier, and especially just thinking if you have some big goals that you're working on in January and you do hit some of those roadblocks or challenges, maybe from an unsupportive friend or family member where they are offering you something. And April, I love how you said, out of compassion for others, I didn't want to hurt their feelings and say no. Like I was raised that that's kind of rude, you don't say no to things.
Yeah.
One thing that I coach my clients on a lot is in that situation, you are allowed to stand up for yourself. That person loves you and they will appreciate that about you, even if it's not in the moment. But you can say it compassionately. You can say, you know what? Thank you so much, but I'm okay. I really appreciate you supporting me in my goals. That really means a lot to me. Like just that one statement, then people are like, oh yeah, I do support you. Like I am happy. Okay. It eases the pain a little bit of the, rejection. So that's something that I personally have used quite a lot in my own health journeys and even in other areas. The other thing is when you are in that moment of you're struggling to stay on track, and you just really want to like rebel against your dietary structure, whatever it is. One thing that I learned, and I know all of you have learned, is like the stop, swat. What is it? I don't know. I learned it a different way, but stop, challenge, choose. Essentially, just stopping, taking a breath, take a sip of water, walk out of the room, whatever it may be. And I use this in all areas of my life. But stop,
Mhm.
challenge, ask
Mhm.
yourself the question,
Mhm.
why am I feeling upset? Why is anger setting in? Or
Mhm.
where is this craving coming from? What do I really want in this moment? Do I
Mhm.
really want to eat this cookie? Does it matter to me that much? Or the whole point is giving yourself that split second so your brain can adjust to a different level of thinking,
Mhm.
so that it's not an instantaneous just giving into it.
Mhm.
And then choose. If you choose to have something that maybe doesn't support your nutritional plan at that moment, make the
Mhm.
choice and move on. And it
Mhm.
doesn't mean that you just screwed the whole day or the whole week or that you failed or anything. You
Mhm.
made one choice in
Mhm.
one moment of
Mhm.
one day.
Mhm.
That's it. That's
Mhm.
it. And just move on. Give yourself the grace to move on to the next moment
Mhm.
and be done with it. But that berating ourselves, that doesn't do any good, especially with health. Stress is just as bad for the body as
Mhm.
smoking or sitting or all of the things. It's
Yeah.
horrible for us.
Yeah.
So giving yourself that grace in that moment, but I just thought that maybe that might help some folks when they're setting some of these goals.
For sure.
Right.
I know Eric, you're about to wrap up. Can I just quickly say something on what Alexa said? Again, since we're also talking about that as coaches, we're not just focusing on, nutrition coaching and fitness coaching. Like we're just talking about coaching in general. Is that so? When you're talking about that, stop, pause, challenge yourself, and make a decision choice. It reminded me of a certain tool we also use in relationship coaching, right? Where you and your partner having someone say he or she says something and you get triggered, right? It's easy to snap back, but that also can be applied that way. You stop, you pause, like, okay, what's going on here? What am I feeling? All right, where's this coming from? Where was the first time I felt this? There's doing the work as well with that, but there's also part
Yes.
of like, okay, like, even simple example that Alex is talking about. Let me just go get some water. Let me leave the room for a second. Then I'll come back like, okay, babes, give me a minute, give me a sec. Let me just catch myself. Then I choose how I'm going to respond, then choose how So all these things, these are tools as well that one gets in coaching. So
Mhm.
I just wanted to throw that in so that people know that we're not just talking about nutrition and fitness coaching. We're talking about life coaching in general, the different types of coaches. There are many different types of life coaches available. All right.
I
That's
love I
getting
love that,
into the
April. And
emotional
Mhm.
intelligence. I
Mhm.
also
It's
use that at work,
something I like to call.
Averill.
Yeah, I call it
What's that,
save to
Alma?
draft. No, you say stop. I like to use the term, I call it save to draft. Just save to
Yes.
draft, walk away. Do not press send.
save to
Yeah.
drafts. I
You
like
know?
that. Yeah, I love
Uh-huh.
that.
Exactly. When you get a
Mhm.
snarky email at work or something, like,
Well, just anything, even
stop,
with the cookie,
walk
with the
away.
remark, with the whatever it is, just stop. Yes. Save to
Mm,
draft, walk away.
Absolutely. With
I
not
love
wanting
that.
to, not wanting to, um, you know, give it all right, because at the end of the day, this is supposed to be an introduction to the tools that you might get into, obviously, with a coach. But
mhm,
to add to Alexis's, because I think is super actionable, the
mhm,
things that we're talking about here. Journaling, right? AM, PM journaling, I think super important. Write down what you're grateful for early in the morning. Set an intention for how you're going to get 1% better today. What's the most important thing that you need to get done by today? And then by the end of the day, this is why you do it the AM and the PM. Takes 2 minutes max.
mhm,
Let people know, or let yourself know, okay, what did I achieve today, what did I struggle with,
mhm,
and how am I going to get better tomorrow, right? So
mhm,
journaling, and with Alexis's point, the stimulus response gap, right? I like to call it, obviously, stimulus comes in, snarky email from your boss telling you how badly you did something wrong. When a lot of the times the response, we're already pressing enter by the time that we realize, oh my God, what did I just do? Right? There needs to be a gap, right? There needs to be a gap between the stimulus, what you feel, and as Alexis said, that gap in between where you make a decision for how you're going to respond is super important, I believe, to living a successful life, right? Because it's understanding that you have a choice, right? There is a choice to how you react to things that happen in your life. There is the thing that happens, which you have zero control over. There is obviously the way that you choose to deal with it, okay? And then there is the response, right? The second two, you have complete control over. And it's taking control of that part, which is the key to obviously living a more happy life, I believe. Fantastic, guys. Alma, any closing thoughts just to kind of wrap us up and bringing it all in?
Well, yeah, I'm glad you asked. I wonder if you would maybe, Eric, have like an accountability tool that maybe someone could I don't know, have on their phone to maybe get started and help them stick to their goals. Some people like graphs and information and data, and less about the emotional aspect. Is there something that maybe that you could recommend?
That. Thank you, Alma. Yeah. I do appreciate you reminding me. There's the Heroic app is the one that I'm using right now, but thinking about our conversation, I'm pretty sure that we could come up with a pretty useful application for people looking to set goals and achieve them. But yeah, the Heroic app, super pumped with it. I've been using it over the last few months. Basically, you kind of set your intentions at the start of the day with regards to what you want to achieve in your work, your love, and your energy. And then from there, you basically you set your intention for each part, right? So as an example for how you want to set up, right? So for my energy protocol, I want to make sure that I do some kind of meditation, and I do a bit of exercise, and I do a 13-hour fast as well as like a cold exposure, right? So those are my four protocol. That's my protocol for having energy throughout the day. So at the end of the day, you basically set, you basically check to see which parts that you did, which parts that you didn't do, right? And it's all based around an overall soul force score, right? So pretty cool, kind of using social media to kind of keep track. But I'm definitely confident that perhaps in the near future we could tailor make our own kind of habit tracking, be your best version of yourself kind of tool. So to be continued.
Yeah, nice.
But fantastic, guys. It's been a pleasure as always. We've kind of dived into some fantastic tools. It's been really actionable, hopefully for our listeners. And we'll be diving into something fresh next week. So we'll check you out then.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Life's a Coach, where our conversations aim to empower and support your personal growth. Until next time, remember that personal development is ongoing, so keep exploring, keep learning, and keep living a life that aligns with your true purpose. Take care, and we'll see you on the next episode of Life's a Coach.